Oh, no. Okay. Hold on a second. Okay. Okay. Looks like our Facebook isn't connecting for some reason. Let me try it again. Give me 1 second here.
No problem.
Okay, if you're watching us on YouTube, we're getting started here in just a second. Okay, looks like we should be live on Facebook now, Sarah. So if you want to check, we can. Okay, welcome this afternoon. We are so excited to have you all joining us today. We are your FWCS integrated instructional technology team, and we're joined today by Liz Bostwick from Canva, and she's going to be sharing some amazing things about Canva and the ways that you can use it with your students. So today we're broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube, but if you have questions or things that you want to ask, feel free to use the chat at any time, and we'll be able to ask Liz those questions, or she'll be able to clarify anything for you there. If you are on YouTube and you don't see the comment feature, go ahead and make sure you're signed into your account, and then you should be able to provide any comments that you'd like. So we're excited to get started. And Liz, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit and then we'll get rolling.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you all and just working with Fort Wayne Community Schools because you're all doing such amazing work. So welcome to getting your students started with Canva. So I'm Liz Bostwick. I am your Canva learning consultant. I spent 16 years teaching in the classroom and 4 years as a technology integration specialist, just working alongside educators, teaching K-12 and their students. I'm also the author of Take the Leap, Ignite a Culture of Innovation, and I reside in upstate New York. You can always connect with me on social media. And of course, you can always connect with any of us from Canva using those hashtags of Canva Love, Canva EDU. We always love to highlight the amazing work that educators and students are doing with Canva. In this session today, we will just do a very brief overview on what Canva for Education is. We know that a lot of you have used it quite a bit, so it's just a touch point. I'm going to go into how you can build your forever library, what students can do in Canva, and then, of course, we'll do some hands-on learning for anybody who may be attending live. And anything you see, you can always go back and test out on your own too. And of course, we'll explore how you can get students started. Feel free to ask questions at any point. So for anybody who's new to Canva, we do want you to know that Canva for Education is a visual communications platform where students can be able to show their ideas and really demonstrate their understanding. So you can see that we have a wide variety of templates available that you can customize, but of course you can always create from scratch. Canva for Education is free for educators and students K-12 because we do believe that education is a human right. And our goal is to really empower the world to design and create. We know that when our students are utilizing Canva, the skills they learn transcend the K-12 landscape. So Canva is used widely around the world in all industries. So that's why they're able to make it free for educators as a wonderful give back. And it's wonderful because we know that no matter what our students do post high school, they're likely going to be using Canva. Canva is used in so many different areas, in so many different businesses. And I know my son is even using Canva for campus at his college. So it's really neat to be able to see all the things he's now creating at the college level. And with anything we do in Canva, we do try to support the 4 main ISTE categories. We want to empower our students as those creative communicators, collaborators. We want to look like as educators how we're empowering learning and also how we're being those innovative designers of lessons for students. We know that the 21st century framework has been around for a very long time, but really it's timeless. So just be thinking with anything that you do with Canva, you can be thinking about how you get your students communicating, collaborating, how they can just use their own creative juices to be able to design and communicate as well. So just keep that in mind with anything. We're always looking at technology as how we can use it to enhance learning. So there are so many ed tech tools out there. So we want to be really mindful that we're not just throwing a bunch of tools at students. And what's wonderful about Canva is that you have so many things in one location. So to kick off, we are going to look at how you can build your forever library in Canva. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a few slides. And then since I'm presenting in Canva, I'm also going to exit out of this presentation and go through this in live in real time too. So in 4 simple steps, you can begin by creating folders in Canva. Sometimes people come into Canva, they just get going creating designs. We want you to know that you can utilize the folders just like you would in any other drive. And so you can create your folders. You can also import any existing resources. This is fantastic because as educators, we know that time is of the essence. So remember that you can renovate the work that you're already doing. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here. And so we can always import. I do have a video on that I will leave in this slide deck, which I will be sharing out with you that you can just refer back to, but I'm going to go over this in real time. And then, of course, you can always give those old resources new life. I love that you can bring anything in from your Google Drive, OneDrive. If you have a Dropbox, you can also upload PDFs. And what's really great about that is you can change the font, you can edit the text, you can even change the images on there. And of course, you can always collaborate with colleagues, just like students can also collaborate with their peers. So before we go further into what students can do, I'm just going to bump out of here real quick and just go ahead and share from my Canva homepage. If at any point you feel like what I'm sharing doesn't match what you're seeing on the screen, just let me know so that we can make any corrections along the way. So here we are in our Canva homepage, and I just wanted to point out a couple of things before going further. We always refer to this here. We do have our Canva work suite. So we just want you to be aware that there are Canva docs, and you can use these just like you would Google Docs or Word documents. And you can always go through any of these template tabs so that you can access templates. You can always search in the search bar or go up to create a design. I personally love going over here to my template marketplace where, again, everything's free, but you can see different templates by all different Canva creators as well. So here I was talking to you guys just about how you can create your folders and get started. So I want to direct your attention to the fact that we do have a projects folder over on our sidebar on our homepage. And by selecting that projects folder, what you're going to see here is that any of my designs will live here. You'll also see that I have a lot of folders created. And what's nice about this is that just like in our classroom, we don't want to dump things into a filing cabinet. These folders allow us to organize. So before you even get students onto Canva, it is a good idea to begin by going to add new and creating a folder where you as an educator can house your resources and then of course easily share with students too. So you can very easily create a folder. And now that folder is created, I can come down and see where that folder is. So if I have ELA resources, and again, we know that if we're an ELA teacher, I taught elementary, I taught 2nd grade and 4th grade. So I'm thinking I would never just have a bunch of documents in here as ELA. I'd likely add more folders and I would have either units of the year. I might even have folders that are specific to theme or main idea, text features, anything like that. So you can create subfolders in this folder as well. So that really helps you to organize. And then what I love is that once you've created a folder here, you can go right to upload. So you can always upload right from your computer or connected drive, depending again, what you're using in your district. But you can also come here and select create a design. Now, if I'm creating a design from this entry point, this design will automatically live in my ELA folder, which also helps me to organize in order to share with students. I can also come here and from your import from app, you can connect and bring anything in from your Google Drive, OneDrive, or Dropbox. So we just want you to know that because sometimes that's a really great first step before having students create, because you might have amazing resources. I'm sure you guys have exit tickets you use, across all grade levels. So you likely have resources like that you might want to bring in and update in Canva. So moving into what students can do, really the possibilities are limitless. This is actually my favorite topic because I love teaching, I love working with educators, and I love thinking about how we can take a simple activity in the classroom and really elevate it with our students, deepening engagement and creating opportunities where our students want to be a part of it, right? We don't want our students having to complete everything out of compliance. We really want them to be deeply engaged and want to work on what they are creating. So Canva really provides a great opportunity for that. So before we really get our students into creating, a lot of times people think, well, maybe I'll get my students collaborating on something simple. So one thing we know is true, and I'm sure as educators, you guys know the importance of this. Collaboration is extremely important. We know how much more efficient we are. Is it one classroom teacher or in any role, it's really hard to do the job alone. So we know that we rely on our teammates for that collaboration, and it's just as essential for our students to know how to collaborate too. So we're going to dive into how students can collaborate. Sometimes this is a nice soft launch if we want to try using a tech tool with students. So when we're looking at students as collaborators, we're just really going to kick off by just thinking about using it as perhaps an icebreaker activity or even a brainstorm. But I want you to know that Canva does have a lot of resources for you to do check-ins with students. And this is great because if you want your students to use icons such as emojis or whiteboard graphics to be able to respond to something or do a team check-in, sometimes that's just a safe entry point for students or for teachers more so, just to get students in and get a feel for what that collaboration looks like as everybody's moving on the screen. And in just a couple of minutes, I'm actually going to be sharing with you an opportunity to dive into that. So I would love for anybody who's with us live just to participate so you can kind of get a feel for that. But it's just a nice way where students don't have to be typing anything or adding any written response of any kind. It's just kind of an easy, soft launch. Of course, we also have opportunities for group brainstorming. So any of these activities, I would recommend always starting with like a small group first or a station rotation, or even as a small center in your classroom. Sometimes a group brainstorming, you might not want a class of 20 students on this all at one time. Maybe eventually as they become accustomed to things, you would like that. Or if you are already doing a lot of collaboration on any type of other technology, then that will be a breeze for you in Canva. But if you are new to that, I always recommend just having maybe 3 students on a collaboration document at one time if they're doing something such as a KWL chart, mind map, or any kind of brainstorming, just so that they can kind of focus on the task rather than get distracted. We also have group contracts available. This is a nice opportunity where students can come in, they can claim a role and really list out their responsibilities so that there's some accountability between group members. And of course, in-class group work. This is where I feel like Canva really becomes amazing because this is where our students really take that collaboration and shift into deeper collaborative creation. So they can be working on anything from book designs to storyboards, comic books, anything pertaining to math, scientific findings, and more. And the group projects just really takes that a step further. This might be a deeper project, a longer project in the fashion of a documentary style video or anything like that. So we'll kind of dive into this. So I'm going to have you guys collaborate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump out of here and into this document. So for anybody who may be live, and I know that may be hit or miss, and again, you can always come back, but I would invite you to come to this link. And I did share it out earlier. I don't know if you had received that in email. So let me know if you need it again.
I did add a bit.ly, so fwcs.info/CanvaPL, all lowercase. If you didn't catch that link somewhere, that's another way you can join. So I'll put that in the chats as well, but just so you know.
Thank you.
Yep.
And again, we don't know if we're getting everybody live right now. People might be watching a replay, which is totally fine. So I'm going to continue rolling, and I will get people into everything and just do some demo as we go too. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just kind of do a demo on what this would look like if we have people joining us in this activity here. So what would happen in your class is that as you share that link, and I do want to share what I did with this link to begin with. If I wanted my students in this activity here, and let me back up and explain what the activity is. So we do have here a getting students started with Canva. So this is a collaboration activity that you can always return back to and explore. But you can see here that we do have just what you saw in my other slides. We're going to be taking some of those pieces and now coming in to vote on things. So for example, I would ask you guys right now, if you were to do a collaboration with students, which would you select? Would you do a check-in, a group contract, group work, or a group project? So all of those collaborative, we really hit those 4 collaborative categories. And so what I did now is I created this as a slide deck, and I just went to my share button here. And you can always go to anyone with the link can edit. Simply copying that link and sending it along gives everybody editing access. Now, on that note, I do want you to know that you can lock things into place in Canva too. So for example, if I was sharing something with students and I want them editing some things, but not everything, I do want you to know that you are able to lock things into place. So you can lock position only. That means people can edit the text here, but they can't move the position of that box. If I go back to that lock, I also have the option to lock it solid so that now nothing can, I can't move it and I can't edit it. Now, if you're on the next page, you'll see that anybody can edit this. And so we're going to kind of go through these a little bit quicker today just to kind of keep rolling with this session. But what I want you to know is how easy it is to collaborate. So I'm just going to do a couple things as a demo. Here we are. I can always come into my elements, and I could use elements to vote, but it's not my favorite. We have a couple other options though. You do have under apps, we do have the ability to select emojis. Now on that note, I do want you to know that anytime you add anything from your apps under your sidebar, if you add any apps, they will appear in your sidebar. So if you notice, my sidebar is very congested, I would say. I tend to leave a lot of things there because I work in Canva all day long. I'm always utilizing it in so many different ways. So if your sidebar ever looks too busy for your liking, know that you can always X out of those on the sidebar as well. But let's go into testing out that emoji because we're going to do 2 different ways. And we'll start out with clicking on the apps that's at the very bottom of your sidebar. And if you select emoji, you can always type it in the top. But you can just use your favorite emoji to select which would you start with tomorrow with students if you had to with collaborating in Canva. A lot of this activity is less about what you're actually going to do with students in this moment. It's more about getting you accustomed to it and taking it through so you can be thinking of what will this look like in your classroom if you were doing an activity like this with students. So I'm just going to add 1 emoji in here. I didn't lock everything in this template today, and I did that purposely too because I think it's for us as educators and adults, it's good for us to test different features out and see how everything works. So you guys can go ahead and open your emoji under your apps and go ahead and add just an emoji. And this will serve as a really great resource too for anybody who watches this live event back. They can always refer back and just see like, what did that look like with a bunch of people? Now from my screen too, I can always, and I'm sure you can too, you can always click on the circle here to see who else is in the session with you. So it is a nice way that you can know who's here and you can see everybody moving around. And you can let me know if anybody's having trouble finding the emojis, but it is under your apps. And your apps will show a lot of different features in here that are fantastic. As you guys are going through this, I'll hit on a couple things, but just remember you can type in that search bar. You can just type in the word emoji and it'll bring up your emoji app. So you can do that. That's a great way just to get people interacting and kind of just a fan favorite. People like emojis. So it's a nice way to do a check-in with people too. Okay, so I'm going to be moving back and forth between this slide. So feel free to continue adding to this page. And then the other thing that I can do is you can always go through and lock pages. So if you don't want people on a page, I'm going to leave my things unlocked for now, and we'll come back to those soon. All right, getting lots of emojis in here. Awesome. I love them. Look at the sunglasses. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my presentation tab. And we'll continue moving along. A little bit of a refresh here. I don't know what happened there. All right. So now we're going to go into looking at students as creators. So we know that they can collaborate, but we also want to explore how they can create and what templates they can use to create to get started. And of course, they can always create and collaborate too, but we just wanted to share about collaboration first, because sometimes people want to do a soft launch with a check-in or sharing out an emoji. And I'm going to share with you the whiteboard graphics on the next activity too, so we'll be able to dive into both. When we're thinking about students as creators, we're really digging into going deeper with creation, really thinking about how they can demonstrate their understanding, put a personal spin on what it is that they're sharing, and making the work that's meaningful and authentic to them. So that's really important if we're looking to deepen engagement and having our students intrinsically motivated about the work that they're doing in the classroom. So some of the options we have here with Canva, the posters are wonderful. They're so nice to be able to communicate any information, any message. You could even have students creating anchor charts in the classroom, which is a lot of fun too. So be thinking about how posters might be used. They could be used to entertain, it could be to advocate or persuade, or just inform others of information, but they could also break down the steps of a process as well. So a poster could really serve as any kind of a purpose. One thing I love is that in the picture, you see that they've printed these out in poster size, but keep in mind that anything in Canva can be shared electronically. So what's wonderful is you can level up these posters. You can get your students to add links. And so if they share it electronically, they could add a video, they could add their own links. They could even add QR codes. So something such as a static typical poster, we can really level it up by just adding some awesome features here from Canva. Infographics are always a great creation in Canva. They can be used in any content area, but again, you're looking at summarizing data, showing a process, building timelines, even comparing findings. So you can think about what that might look like in your subject area. Canva is famous for just being known for their presentations. And one thing we just want us to think about today is the fact that presentations can be done like right now. I'm presenting, I'm using the slide deck. So of course they can be done in that traditional manner, but keep in mind too that the presentation slides can be used for anything. For example, the activity that I shared with you, that's built in a presentation slide. So those slides can serve as a resource for just about anything, but these presentations are wonderful if you want your students to pitch an idea or do an end of unit project. I love the fact that they can make talking presentations and do the recording option in here too. Speaking of video, the video, if you've ever created videos with students, you'll know it's a lot of fun. I did videos with 2nd grade and 4th grade. Unfortunately, we did not have access to Canva for Education, but I did last year when I was still working in my role as a tech integration specialist. And it was amazing to see even 2nd graders were able to create insect research projects. And they had an option to either create a video or a presentation. And it was really neat to be able to see how quickly students just acclimated to using Canva even at a young age. And so even our youngest students can come in, if they know how to start building a presentation, the videos are very similar because they're just bringing in those slides just like this. You're dropping them into the timeline. It is nice that you can split them. So for example, in the classroom, if there's a noise that happened or an announcement, a fire alarm, they can always pause the recording, of course, too, but they can go back and edit that out later, which is really nice. They don't have to start from scratch. But we would use videos for everything from explaining a process to even with mathematics. They would take a picture of a story problem, a multi-step story problem especially, where they could then verbalize what are the steps of the process? How did they know? What were the key words? And within Canva, they can use any of the elements to underline a question or use arrows to point to any terminology that they want to highlight. So it's a nice way where students can make those connections within any subject area. So let's go back to that collaboration activity. And in here, go to the right one, right tab, too many tabs. So we're going to pop over to this next one. So before you add anything, we're not going to use emojis this time, but I'd love for you guys, anybody who's on the collaboration document, if you can hover, like just come to slide 3 and click on it. And so the other thing is on your screen, if you don't see the pages below, like you might see on my screen, just know that you do have a caret here where you can show pages or hide. As long as you show pages, you'll be able to easily toggle through. So everybody can come to page 3. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand to a whiteboard because I want you to see how that is different than a presentation slide. So now if I just simply click expand to whiteboard, you'll see that now we have all this whiteboard space. If it happened to be really little for you, you can zoom right in. And if you click off onto the whiteboard, I'm going to ungroup this. You can now see where people are moving with their cursors. So that's kind of cool too. So this gives you another idea where you could have students collaborating on one slide. It's a little bit more contained. However, if you expand to a whiteboard, now people can continue to move freely. You have limitless space. And we have seen teachers who might want to start a lesson here and then on Tuesday, go to a next portion of it. This is a nice way where students can be able to share ideas or brainstorm and then return to class the next day and build on that. I also have a local district who's using the whiteboards as a data wall. So they're using this as tracking continued progress, which is kind of cool too. All right. So a couple of things. We're on the whiteboards now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my elements. And if you click on your elements, you'll see that the tray that before, if you clicked on elements, it would have just opened up to your typical things that are under elements. So you would have seen pictures, videos, graphics. But because I'm in whiteboard mode, I'm now populating any of my whiteboard resources. So sticky notes, line shapes, and whiteboard graphics. So go ahead and click elements. That will open your whiteboard tray. If you click see all under your whiteboard graphics, let's just choose one of the whiteboard graphics or more and cast a vote for what are you excited to get students creating? And you will need to come in and just do a quick resize of them too, or you can leave it large, that's fine too. But this just gives you a good feel for what this looks like if people are in a document together, and how you can have students working on a whiteboard because it might be appropriate for your classroom. This is also great for PLCs, staff meetings, you name it. And as much as I do like emojis, I tend to lean towards the whiteboard graphics personally. I feel like they tend to be more on the positive side, like they're almost all positive for the most part. So it's just a nice way to keep that good vibe going. Okay, and I'm going to go back to my presentation slide. And feel free to keep adding. I'm just going to keep on moving along too. And we're now going to dive into just some examples on how Canva is being used in the classroom around the world. So you're going to find so much more. If you're a part of the Canva teachers community on Facebook, you're going to see that it's a global community of educators, and you're going to see so many awesome resources shared. You'll see that people share template links. So that's really a wonderful place to be. And so I'll hit on that a little bit more before we wrap up today. But we also have a lot of great resources here. And we also have a Wakelet of resources. If you're new to Wakelet, Wakelet is a wonderful place where you can curate any resources and then share out. So we do keep track of anything that is shared on Canva EDU hashtag on Twitter. We do add that to the Wakelet just so that teachers can feel inspired. So here we have some Canva in the wild, or in other words, just out there in the world. So we have here, Dr. Randall Sampson had used Canva to create his Hall of Fame award for his school. And you can see here that students are featured on the posters. Now, these students also created videos using Microsoft Flip and printed the QR codes. Now, at this point, we do have the video editor in Canva and QR codes, so you could do either or give students choice. Some might want to create it in Flip if they're accustomed to it. Some might want to create in Canva. So it's nice when students have those options too. And there is an integration so that you can bring your Canva creations into Flip, which is wonderful as well. On a really random side note, Dr. Randall Sampson also shared with us that he created 3 of his tattoos in Canva. So if you're looking to be extra creative, know that the sky's the limit. So you can create anything in Canva. We love this here too, where you can create book snaps. So this was shared by Derek Oldfield from Berkeley County Schools, and it's really great how the teachers there are having the kids take a picture of a passage, and then you can see they were able to add these elements over top of the text, and then they added in just about who's the protagonist, the antagonist, and some information. So when I taught in the classroom too, we would sometimes use this for close reading strategies where kids could either underline, put a star next to any of the sentences that might stand out to them, or question marks if they had a question. And in our 4th grade team, we would read Because of Winn-Dixie every year. And I remember we also used this activity just for students. We knew the theme. We knew where the theme was within one of the passages. So we said, we want you to find, where do you find the theme in this passage? How do you know it's the theme? And the students were able to we used a different tool at the time, but of course, similar with highlighting, annotating. They can use arrows as elements. And then it's just nice that they could even use emojis, or in Canva, any of the elements that make connections to the theme. So because of Winn-Dixie at the time, the theme that was in, I believe it was like chapter 6, but it was really focusing on friendship. And so it was neat to be able to see the kids make the connections and what visual representations they bring in and connect with the text. So it's just such a great way where we know that there's times we'll do multiple choice or a written response, but if we can also find opportunities for our students to create in the learning or bring in any visual representation, we're helping them to make those connections. And then this one here is from a music teacher in Washington County Public Schools in Maryland. And of course, as a middle school teacher, she is tasked with having the students grow in appreciation and to be able to learn about medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque music. And I love how she, very appropriate, especially for middle school, to be able to bring in some humor into the classroom. And so what she did, she attended one of my sessions on whiteboarding. And the next day, she created a whiteboard, and she wasn't at the point where she wanted the students necessarily creating in Canva. So what she did is she added the students' names on these little pieces of tape, and then provided the link to students. So they all came in and joined. And then the students were able to drag their name. So when she played the music, they could drag their name to the era in which they thought the music was coming from. So just a nice way to get the kids interactive in the music class too. This one here, we have an example of how you can do podcasting with Canva. And this came from a local district. Last year, we actually have Meet the Parents Night tonight with teachers at the high school. But in the fall when we went, I happened to be staying outside waiting to talk to, we have a 16-year-old, so he's in 10th grade. And so we were waiting outside of the classroom door, and I got talking to the teacher across the hall. And she didn't know I worked with Canva, but we started talking all about Canva, of course. She was an ELA teacher. She also teaches communications. And so I love how, as a high school teacher, she was having students do their written portion of their podcast. And this is just one example, but I thought it was creative. The talk never leaves the shop. And it was neat because the students can create a series of podcast episodes. And so they're still doing writing, but then they're working on speaking and listening skills and presenting too. And so it's just a different form of presentation, right? Like instead of doing a presentation with slides, they're creating an audio presentation. And so this can be done right through Canva. And we do have steps here where they did find a podcast cover. They made any of their edits and resized it to a square. You can always record yourself by turning off your camera. And by doing that, you can layer so that the audio is beneath. You can also layer audio tracks by bringing in other soundtracks to play at the same time. And on that note, we do a deep dive into video creation, where we go into how you can layer those audio tracks and adjust them just the way you want. But if you go and play with it, you'll see it's also very intuitive. And then, of course, we have some educators using it in the social studies classroom. And there's so many ways you can use Canva in any subject area. But here they're sharing their findings creatively, or even creating a digital poster on Benjamin Franklin and his impact on society. Science, again, so many ways. We did a lot of hands-on science, of course, in the classroom. And so we would always encourage our students to take pictures of the process. So they would always make their predictions. And at the end, they would share out what they learned and what was accurate or what findings were inaccurate. And we always encourage them that it's okay if something was different than your original prediction, because that's what science is. But what's nice about using Canva is that the students really can build anything from their habitats to even taking pictures to show the progression of anything that they're exploring in science. What I love about using this as a tool too is because sometimes our families don't get a great understanding of what's happening in the classroom. Canva provides a visual lens into what's happening. It helps parents and the community members understand, like, wow, look at all that students are learning, because it's so much deeper than looking at a handout that may have come home at the end of a day. And of course, Canva in ELA, so many ways you can use Canva within any activity you are thinking of. You could be thinking about how to apply it in your classroom. So of course, any character analysis, even Flat Stanley and narrative essays. This is nice too, because they could also do a recording with that. And some people have wondered, can you use Canva in math? Well, I showed you guys some of the charts that we do have charts in Canva. And I may not have been in this session, actually, now that I think about it. Sorry, we did quite a few sessions, so I can navigate you that direction soon. But I do want you to know that you can use Canva in math. And just like you saw before with the reading, you can do math snaps as well, where students do take pictures of the math problems. And it was just last year that I was working with fifth graders. They wrapped up a unit on adding and subtracting decimals. And then they also had created their own menus, their own restaurants, and had to order from one another. So a real life way to put it into action. And then I love here how these students are graphing their data, paper and pencil. We know those fine motor skills are important. And just because we're utilizing technology to enhance learning, it doesn't mean that we're shifting completely away from paper and pencil. We know those skills are really important just as much. So we're really looking at here, the students may be gathering their data, but then putting it into a clean chart at the end. So it reminds me, I like to have my paper pencil calendar, but then I import everything into my Google Calendar just so it keeps me even more organized. So we're going to take just a minute where you can do some exploration of templates. And let's see, because this is just a little bit different, I think what we'll do in this case here, we're not going to take a ton of time to go and design at the moment. But I do want to just go through how we can find a template and share it out. And I would invite you to practice just so we can get a feel for that. So if we were to open a tab and go to our Canva homepage, we're going to see that we're back to that Canva worksheet. I do love to, new this week with Canva, they do share their top tools to try. So if there's anything that you haven't tried yet, this is really wonderful. You can play with any of the filter features to edit photos. You can remove backgrounds. So lots of options here. And speaking of removing backgrounds, I do want you in your roles to just know that you can remove a background from any picture or video in Canva. So removing the background of a video is really wonderful because it creates that green screen effect. My husband's a principal at a 5-6 building. It's literally 3 minutes from our house. But it was really neat because the 6th grade students there each year, they study weather. And so they were doing wild weather projects. And the students there, they went outside, and of course they did their best trying to reenact that they were at a weather scene. And it was really neat because they wore different layers of either coats or rain jackets and reported on whichever weather they studied. And then all they had to do was remove the background so that they no longer saw the playground or the brick building, the brick wall of the building, and they could put a hurricane or a blizzard or a tornado in the background. So it really brought their learning to life as a culminating project. So here we are. We're going to just practice what it looks like to look for a template and how we can share it back so that we could do a gallery walk. So we're on our templates, and you can find a template however you like, and you might have a template that's one of your favorites that you've created. But if I go to my template marketplace from my sidebar, I can very easily scroll through any of my templates here. And I'm going to take this mind mapping one today. And so I'm just going to demo this, and I'm going to let you then do the same thing. Or if you know where I'm headed, feel free to follow along or anything like that. But I'm just going to create this one here. So I'm just doing a mind mapping activity. And let's say I have this activity and I'm a student and this is what I worked on. And now the teacher has asked me to share it back with the class because we're all going to present on it. So I can open this up. I can always change my templates, but I'm going to go up to share. And now earlier, if you were paying attention to me going through this, I did click share and I changed all of the settings here. To share a view only link, I'm actually going to navigate you to go under the more option. I think we're having some different updates taking place because it's not opening the way it normally would. But under the more option, this is the best place to go to look for any of your sharing options. So you're going to see all of your options here anyway. So I always recommend this is the way to do it. So if you come in here to the more, you can always see that you can grab what we would call a view only link. So by sharing this view only link, I can just copy that. And now going back in the collaboration activity, if I right click my mouse, or you can always click Control V on the keyboard, I can paste my document, and you'll notice a lot of them will fall in the same spot. So you'll just move it to the side. Oh, I moved somebody else's. Sorry, Sarah. And then you can see here, you can very easily do a gallery walk with students' activities. So, or even if this is not student activities, think about it in terms of if you wanted to create resources for students and you wanted them to interact with them. So from here, because we shared view onlys, just know that I can now click on any of these designs, and at the top, I will have this bar, and I have an option to open the embed link. So if I open that embed link, I can now expand this entire project. And it's great because a student or a team of students could speak to it, or even as the teacher, I could highlight something that I really liked or appreciated, or however it connected to our content area. I know I've had some world language teachers. One in particular is a French teacher that was in one of my sessions, and he was talking about it in terms of being able to add comments. So he was having students share, and then they want students to be able to comment on one another's creations. So know that you can always provide comment in real time as well. And I do want to point out, the other thing is, if you see here, Shannon had dropped a sticky note here, and a new feature as of just a week and a half ago, names do appear along the bottom of these sticky notes. So that's really helpful. And if you want to turn the names off, just know that you can always click this. If you click the sticky note, if you're seeing on my page, if you click the 3 dots, you do have an option to remove the name as well. So I just want you to know that names can be removed, or you can add the name back on. And there are so many different templates in Canva. So no matter what your role is, there's something for you. I love the resumes. I know our middle school that's also local, they do a whole unit on learning about careers that they're interested in or what they want to do after high school. And they also come into Canva, they create their resumes in here, but it's nice because these resume templates give them an idea of what belongs on a resume. And it's just nice because they can add their picture and everything, and they have all the graphics here. And on that note, I have had some educators ask me, do I need information about copyright? Just know that you can use everything for free from Canva, unless you're creating something that you're selling as like a teacher resource. There's completely different terminology, so it's not for profit. It is, but if you want to create something for a classroom website or a school website, you can feel free to utilize anything within your Canva for Education account. Okay, I'm going to go back into the presentation portion, and we'll be moving towards wrapping up. We do have one last reflection that we'll do in that page, in that activity that you guys have open. We want you to know that we do share a boatload of resources. Our goal is not to just share out and then hide anything from you. We want it to make sure that you are equipped to feel successful, and your students as well. Please know that we do have a Canva for Students course. With that said, I will say I've worked with primary students, and I've done it a couple of different ways. Sometimes I've gone in and done a quick demo and then turned it over to them. Other times I've used inquiry and said, what do you think this tab will do? And the majority of the time, they're pretty intuitive because they use technology, and so they acclimate very quickly. What I love about using Canva with students too is that I don't like to tell them everything, right? I like to give them enough to get started. Before you know it, you'll have students saying, hey, I found a background tab. I can add a background. What's nice about this is now you can invite the student up and say, show others, how did you do it? It's a great way to build up the students and help them know that they can learn and discover and also teach their peers. I've always found that sometimes it's the students that might not always be as academically inclined, that they're the ones that will stumble upon and discover something. So it's a really great way to be able to showcase their strengths and then allow their peers to really call on them or lean in on them for that support. So, but there's also Canvas student tutorials. And I know some educators have left these in lieu of like an activity during when there's a substitute. So it will take them through all the different steps. And it's just a nice resource that students can turn to. And of course, you can always assign a template to students. So we do want you to know that in addition to sharing a view only, as I shared with you, under our option of more, you can always go to a view only link. Now, students will not be able to edit that. That's just view. But if you come down here to a template link, what that will do, if I grab this, that link is going to force a copy so that every student has a copy of that template to edit themselves. I have had teachers that are like, I have to start with a template because students won't know where to start. Well, in that case, there was also a different second grade classroom. She had shared that, but gave students free editing rights for each of those templates that are individual. And none of them looked the same at the end. So it was really awesome to see the students put their personal touch. And they did a great job. They didn't need the entire template. However, sometimes it's a nice starting point. And I also want to make sure that we share that you can always choose to download. It will generate to whatever is the suggested type, but you can always toggle through. And so if you want an image file, even if you want a PDF, MP4 video, or a GIF, you can download anything. And I also like down here, so I have 76 pages. If you don't want to print out all of them, just know that you can always go in here and just print out one. Another little piece that I'll share with you real quick, one of my favorite ways to share in Canva. See, I think you guys know from earlier, but you can always go to your apps and you do have your QR code generator on the side. This is going to generate a classic URL. You can change the background in the foreground. So if you want it to be pink with white instead of white with black, you can do that. But one thing I really love is actually using the QR code creator from up in this share tab. And I'll show you why. So if I come to more and I go to my QR code in this option, what's going to happen is I do need to add a URL, but we've used this. I'm actually going to change that. What's nice about this view is that you can actually choose which of your presentation slides will appear on this QR code. So it really just personalizes it. And we've seen this used. I've been working with a district in North Carolina. The middle school students are creating book reviews. And so they selected the book that they wanted to review. They did do a write-up. They also created a video or a recording sharing with their peers why their peers should pick that book up. And then from there, they uploaded a picture of the cover of the book, and they were able to then bring it into this QR code. So that QR code is in the library. People can scan it. They know it connects with the book, and they can listen to a book review. So just a nice way to just do some different engagement, whether it's the library or your classroom library. And we also have a video here just where it'll walk you through everything I talked about with sharing a template. So let's just do a quick reflection just so that we can see again what that looks like. I do generate sticky notes, but I'm actually going to take those away. Sorry. So the reason I'm doing that is because I like using the new feature where names are there. You can always choose to remove your name. Plus, I do like people to be able to access the elements and have to go there to get the sticky notes. But if you would just share something you loved from today, maybe one thing you learned or any questions. And you can see again, this is just another example of how easy it is for students to come in and just do a quick reflection. So they just have to grab a sticky note and add to it. And remember, if you don't know where to find the sticky notes, all you do is go to your sidebar. The second one down is Elements. And if you click Elements, you'll find sticky notes. And if you just click one, it will generate onto the page and you can type right into it. And if I did bring some back because I don't know, there could be a couple people trying to figure out where to find the sticky notes. So they are under Elements. If you just click your Elements tab, they will show, but I did add some back to the side. So if it's easier, you can have those pre-populated. You just remove names from them. I had these set in this template before the names ever appeared, so. And remember, you can always share questions back with your district team. They are phenomenal and are always excited to help and support. And so it's just such a great time to work with your district. And I'm excited to be able to be here today. So I'll return to this in a second. I'm just going to do a quick wrap up, but then I can return to those slides just to make sure that we're not missing any questions. So as people are just responding to those sticky notes, we still invite you to ask any questions you may have, or if there's anything in the chat, you can let me know. And just know that you will have access to this slide deck that I'm sharing now. So everything is hyperlinked. You can visit to view any of the Canva tutorials. Back to that teacher's Facebook community group. I do want you to know that that is here. It's a really fantastic place where you can share out. So if you're not a part of it yet, you'll want to go here if you're on Facebook and join it. There are 63,000 members and it is global. But we also have Mel, who's our community manager here. She runs this group. She does have webinars at different points. And it's just nice because sometimes she'll even run design challenges where you could be entered to get a $25 print code. Anything you create on Canva, you can print and purchase from Canva, but you can also print out in any of your local print shops as well. So for example, I created Christmas cards in here of our family and actually was able to print them at our local Staples. Canva gave me that as an option, so I didn't have to ship it. I could go pick it up. So just some nice options there. And of course, we do have the District Hub. This just breaks down any PD resources if you're looking for it, and LMS. And of course, we'd always love to hear feedback. If you have any feedback, please do join into the slide deck. Once I share this, it won't come to you until the next day or two. And then you'll be able to access that form there. And I just thank you so much for your time tonight and for joining us. Or if you're watching the playback, we're just so happy that you could tune in, and we can't wait to see what you and your students design.
Well, thank you so much, Liz. This has been awesome. We loved seeing and hearing all the things that you can do with Canva. I personally loved seeing all those student examples and the ideas that people were adding to the collaborative board there. So it's been really good. So thank you so much for your time. I know you've got a busy evening too, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. And if we don't know the answer, we can get in touch with Liz, and she's more than happy to help us think of ideas or get ready to implement a project with your students.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. And yes, we're off to parents' night. So thank you.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.